Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, it's 2025, and lately, I've been thinking about how fast tech moves. One minute your phone is the latest and greatest, and the next it's like vintage. But that got me curious. How do some of these older flagship devices hold up today? Today, we're rewinding the clock to take another look at the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Yep, Apple's top-of-the-line model from way back in October 2020. At the time, this phone was the iPhone to get. Massive hype, cutting-edge features, and for many people, the dream phone of that year. But here we are, 5 years later. So, does it still hold up? Let's dive in. First off, design and launch. The iPhone 12 Pro Max was introduced during a virtual event, which felt a little strange back then, but totally normal now. I remember watching that Apple event and thinking, this feels different. And the phone? It was a big deal. Literally, it featured the largest display ever on an iPhone at the time, a massive 6.7 inches, and brought back the flat edge design, which gave it serious iPhone 4/5 nostalgia vibes. In the best way. Sleek, industrial, and premium feeling. Apple also debuted the LiDAR scanner on this model, which was a huge talking point. It promised improved low-light photography and some interesting augmented reality features, though, let's be honest, AR still hasn't totally taken over the way we imagined. And remember this? The Pro Max launched later than the rest of the iPhone 12 lineup, which was a bit unusual. You had to wait if you wanted the biggest and best, and a lot of people did. So with all that in mind, how does it perform now? What's it like to use a 2020 flagship in 2025? That's what we'll unpack in this video. We'll talk performance, camera, battery, software support, the whole package, and see whether the iPhone 12 Pro Max still earns a spot in your pocket today. Alright, so let's talk about how the iPhone 12 Pro Max feels in the hand here in 2025. Honestly, it still holds up as a premium-feeling device. That stainless steel frame and matte glass back continue to give off a solid high-end vibe. It feels sturdy, luxurious even. But at 228 grams, there's no denying it's a heavy phone, especially compared to some of the newer, lighter models. Some people like that substantial feel, while others, myself included, are starting to appreciate lighter devices more. I used to love the heavier phones, but now, sometimes my wrist isn't so happy after long use. The flat-edge design, inspired by the iPhone 5, still looks modern and clean. In fact, Apple's kept this design language going even into their latest phones. But let's be real. Those flat edges can dig into your hand a bit, especially when holding the phone for long periods. And with that big 6.7-inch display, this is very much a two-handed phone. Reaching the top corner one-handed? Yeah, good luck with that. Now, speaking of that display, it's a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED, and honestly, it still looks fantastic. Vibrant colors, deep blacks, HDR10, and Dolby Vision. Watching videos or scrolling through photos is still a great experience. Even outdoors with a peak brightness of 1200 nits, visibility is solid. But here's the catch, the refresh rate. It's still 60 Hz, and in 2025, that feels outdated. Back when the 12 Pro Max launched, it was fine. But now, most mid-range and flagship phones offer 90 Hz or 120 Hz. And yeah, you can feel the difference. Scrolling and animations just look smoother on higher refresh rate displays. If you've never used one, you might not notice. But once you do, going back to 60 Hz, it's hard not to see the lag. Moving on to performance, and this is where things get interesting. The iPhone 12 Pro Max is powered by the A14 Bionic chip, which was a big milestone for Apple back in 2020. It was their first chip built on the 5-nanometer process, offering impressive gains in both performance and efficiency at the time. Fast forward to 2025, and you know what? It still holds up pretty well. For everyday use, browsing the web, scrolling through social media, replying to emails, or jumping between apps, the phone feels smooth and responsive. It also comes with 6 GB of RAM, which helps a lot with multitasking. You won't feel like the phone is struggling to keep up, especially for general tasks. As for gaming? Yeah, It can still handle modern titles like Genshin Impact or Call of Duty Mobile. You might need to dial down the graphics settings a bit to maintain smooth frame rates, especially compared to phones running the A17 or A18 chips. But gameplay is still very much possible. It's not flagship level in 2025, but it's definitely not outdated either. Now, a huge advantage of owning an iPhone is software support, and the 12 Pro Max still gets it. It runs the latest iOS 18, so you're covered on both new features and critical security updates. Most things run great, though some of the latest AI-powered features, like the full suite of Apple Intelligence tools, might be limited or slower due to hardware constraints. But the core iOS experience? Still excellent. Now, let's talk about something that really matters in 2025, battery life. Over time, iPhone batteries degrade, and after nearly 4 years of use, that's definitely something you'll start to feel. Most iPhone 12 Pro Max units by now are probably sitting around 75 to 85% battery health, depending on usage habits. And that drop in capacity means shorter screen-on time and more frequent charging. You might start to notice the phone doesn't last as long as it used to, especially if you're doing things like streaming videos, gaming, or using power-hungry apps. Even 5G connectivity can drain the battery faster than you'd expect. And yeah, with big iOS updates like iOS 18, some users report their phones running a bit warmer or seeing faster battery drain, especially in the first few days after updating. So if you're thinking about picking up a used iPhone 12 Pro Max in 2025, make sure to check the battery health in the settings. If it's under 80%, it's probably worth budgeting for a battery replacement. That upgrade alone can seriously extend the phone's usable life and give you a much better daily experience. Alright, let's dive into the cameras. The iPhone 12 Pro Max comes with a triple 12-megapixel camera system, a wide, ultra-wide, and a telephoto lens with 2.5x optical zoom. It also features a LiDAR scanner, which was a pretty big deal at the time. It helps with faster autofocus in low light and improves portrait mode accuracy, especially in dim environments. Now here's the thing. Even in 2025, this camera setup still holds its own. Photos come out sharp, with natural-looking colors and solid dynamic range. Apple's Deep Fusion and Night Mode, which works on all lenses, do a great job of enhancing detail and handling tricky lighting conditions. And for video, the 12 Pro Max can shoot HDR video in Dolby Vision at up to 60 frames per second, which still looks incredible even by today's standards. Of course, when compared to the latest iPhones, you will notice a few gaps. Newer models offer more optical zoom, better computational photography, and features like cinematic mode or 4K video at 120 frames per second, which are missing here. But unless you're a serious photographer or content creator, this camera still delivers fantastic results for everyday use. It may not be the newest, but for most people, it's still a very capable shooter. Okay, there are definitely some downsides to using the iPhone 12 Pro Max in 25. First off, that 60Hz display is probably the biggest drawback for anyone who's used to the smoother experience of 90Hz or 120Hz screens. Once you've seen how fluid things can look, going back can feel noticeably slower, especially when scrolling or navigating through animations. Then there's battery life. On brand new units, it was great, but after 4 years, many used models are sitting around 75 to 85% battery health. That means shorter usage time, more frequent charging, and possibly the need for a battery replacement, something to factor in if you're buying one used. And yeah, it still uses the Lightning port. With most devices, including newer iPhones, shifting to USB-C, Lightning does feel a bit outdated in 2025, especially if you're juggling multiple devices with different cables. You'll also be missing out on some newer features like Dynamic Island, Cinematic Mode, or advanced AI features in iOS 18 that require newer hardware. These aren't deal breakers for everyone, but if you're coming from a recent iPhone, you'll notice the absence. Then, of course, there's always a bit of risk with buying a used phone. Hardware issues, display replacements, battery swaps. It's hard to know exactly what you're getting unless you buy from a reliable source. That said, the iPhone 12 Pro Max in 2025 is still a very capable phone. It's got a premium build, a solid display, strong performance, and a reliable camera that still holds its own. And best of all, the used market pricing makes it really tempting. You can usually find one for around $350 to $450, depending on condition and storage. That's a solid deal for anyone who wants to join the Apple ecosystem without paying flagship prices. If you're planning to buy one, definitely check battery health and be aware of the refresh rate limitation. But if you're already using the iPhone 12 Pro Max and it still meets your needs, there's honestly no pressure to upgrade, unless you're specifically looking for better battery, a smoother screen, or newer camera features. So that's my long-term take on the iPhone 12 Pro Max in 2025. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and take care.